While we're waiting, I was just going to cover the thing that when you all signed up, there was this field in the forum that said, "What's your biggest challenge in LinkedIn?" And you all left really interesting stuff. So we looked at it, we bucketed into three groups. And then at the end of this discussion, we're going to go over that feedback of what are the things that you guys are struggling with and what should you do about it. A lot of the answers are actually in this presentation. So you'll probably get your answers as we're going through it, but I will cover it at the end explicitly to make sure that you walk away with the answers to what you were looking for.
To make sure that everybody can get to their work on time, we are going to get started. Most of you know me and Arjun, but just really quick introduction. My name is Anita Moorthy. I'm the CMO for Rocksalt. My background is marketing. I've done B2B marketing for 25 years of my life in India, in Europe, as well as the US, different industries, fintech, cybersecurity, and mobile app development, actually. So that's my quick background. Arjun, do you want to give a quick
Sure.
intro?
Yeah, I'm Anita's little brother and co-founder of Rocksalt. Before this, I did another startup, which was a terribly misguided idea, but we somehow managed to exit. Before that, I was at HubSpot for about 6 years. I worked with fantastic people like Jean, who's on this webinar, and learned a ton from her, learned a lot about marketing. And so that's a big reason why we're building Rocksalt is because, yeah, HubSpot taught me a ton, and I feel like we can do some cool stuff with that knowledge and with Anita's background in this next iteration of marketing in an AI age.
Awesome. Really, let's get started. Before we get into the research, just wanted to let you know what Arjun said in the beginning. We had asked everyone what their biggest challenge was on LinkedIn, and basically they fell into three general buckets. One was LinkedIn isn't working anymore for me. The other is I don't know what to post. And the third is likes don't seem to matter. How do I actually make what I'm doing in LinkedIn matter for my business? So those are the three areas, and we will give some answers throughout the presentation, but at the end, we will dive into those specifically. So hopefully you'll stay until the end. All right, so next slide. So the what I wanted to start with on this slide is the fact that most of the LinkedIn analysis that's done, like a lot of people do LinkedIn post analysis and they make two mistakes. One is they usually just bucket all the content into one bucket and they just say, we analyze 20,000 posts, 15,000 posts, whatever, 100,000 posts. But the truth is that the content type determines the kind of engagement you get. So a post about someone who had a birth of a son and is posting about it has very different engagement than someone who's saying, I have a webinar and please attend it. And so putting them all together, we felt was not is not a good analysis on what works on LinkedIn. And then the other thing that a lot of analysis make mistake on is bucketing all the people together. So if you have someone who's got 100,000 followers and consistently gets 100, 200 likes, you can't compare their baseline engagement and what works for them with someone who's just starting out less than 5,000 followers and is like new to posting on LinkedIn or posts infrequently. So we control for both of those variables in doing these analysis. And the reason this is really important is because impression, yeah, so that's basically the big thing that we wanted to talk about. Arjun, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, so if you think about a lot of us, most of us are not professional influencers, and I think we have no desire to become professional influencers for the most part. So when we study these people that are doing really well, apparently, you want to make sure that you control for what their baseline followership is, and then compare within them how they're doing. And so a lot of times what we find is that the people that have massive followings actually don't do as well as one would think. And sometimes people with modest followings, but the right audience and giving the right information to that audience do better. And so controlling for these two variables, I think, is a really big deal. And that's why a lot of the findings that you will see today are different than the findings that you might have seen elsewhere once you control for these 2 points. Does that make sense? Any questions? And please ask in the
Yeah,
chat
please
pane.
feel
Anita and
free
I
to,
will,
yeah,
yeah.
ask, and I'll try to answer the questions as I'm walking along as well. And that's what this chart shows is actually Arjun's ToFu, MoFu, and BoFu posts. And you can see that if you look at impressions for profile view, as profile view is something that obviously made someone who read your post, it resonated with them, then you can see that there is a difference in the kind of results that each of these type of posts get. Okay, all right. Sorry, do you want to say something,
No,
Arjun?
yeah, just sorry, just because I feel like that is a bit of an eye chart before. So what you're seeing here is three different posts that I wrote. The first one is ToFu post, very like top of the funnel. I'm talking about whether computer science is a good major to have in the future. And it got tons and tons of impressions. But if you see the number of impressions per profile view are actually fairly modest. And then if you go to the next one, I'm talking about an industry level thing. And in that one, you can see that I got not as many impressions, but impressions per profile view, much better. And then the final one is very much a bottom of the funnel post. It's about Rocksalt. And that one, not a ton of impressions, but actually impressions per post was the best. And so if you think about impressions per profile view, the reason that matters is if I wrote something that was really interesting, then people would go and look at my profile and say, oh, who is this guy and what's he all about? So that's what I was trying to show, that just because I got tons and tons, I think I got 90,000 impressions in that first post, it didn't translate to tons of business results on that. That's okay. That was not meant for that. But you shouldn't conclude that, oh, I'm going to write a lot about careers and what to study in the future. That's not the conclusion to draw.
Great. Okay. Okay, so the first finding in our report was on the content mix. We said all these 31 B2B influencers, and the reason, by the way, we chose B2B influencers is because they tend to post a lot. So we had a lot of data per influencer that we could analyze, and that's why we chose them. And also, we chose B2B marketing influencers because then we understood, because of my background and Arjun's background, we were able to more finely go into the content itself to understand the type of content, etc., versus an industry that I don't understand the content. Okay, so the content mix that works. This post shows that when we looked across all those posts and influencers, this is roughly the breakdown of the mix that most people had, which is on average, people had about 30% tofu posts or top of the funnel, for those of you who are new to that term. And it typically means posts that are general in interests. That means they appeal to a broad audience. That's what we mean by tofu. And examples of that would be like career posts, like what things I would tell my younger self, and those kinds of posts which have a general appeal. That would be tofu posts. So about 30% was what was a tofu mix. And then the MoFu, or the middle of the funnel, this usually implies posts that resonate with your specific ICP. So in this case, because we were looking at marketing audience, it's like content that they're writing that specifically appeals to marketers, and that was around 50%. And then bottom of the funnel is posts that mention the companies that those influencers are working at. So they are very much conversion posts that they're saying, like, here's a webinar, here's a blog post, those kind of posts. So this is the mix that we saw: 30% tofu, 50% MoFu, and about 20% BoFu posts. And generally, the insight that we want people to take away from this is that in general, when people are new to LinkedIn, they tend to index on the BoFu posts and MoFu posts. They'll talk a little bit about the industry, but a lot of it is about promoting their company. And that the data here shows that's a mistake. And what you want to do is mix it up and have a healthy mix of tofu, MoFu, and BoFu, approximately in this ratio. And
And if you
that's,
think about it, sorry, Annie,
sorry,
the
go ahead.
reason why this is there is at the end of the day, people on LinkedIn want to follow interesting people. They just want to see interesting stuff. They don't want to follow brands. It's boring as hell. Oh, look at how great my product is. And so they're following you, the person, or they're interested in you, the person. That's why that 1/3 of your content being of general interest about you, the inventor, the professional, the career that you've had, the mistakes you've learned from, blah, 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 that makes you interesting. And having 1/3 of your content be that kind of stuff, that's cool. And then a bunch of it is the industry stuff. That's really where your expertise comes in. You're not talking about your company and you're not talking about your product. By the way, this, if you ever followed HubSpot's wisdom from back in the day, HubSpot always used to espouse this and say, yeah, don't talk up your company in your blog post as much as possible. This is basically the same thing now being played out in LinkedIn. So only about 1/5 of your content talks about your company or your product. And the number one mistake we see is that everyone gets that backwards and talks about their product all the time. And then you're really boring and you don't see engagement. You're like, huh, I wonder why. This is the first thing. Get the mix right.
Perfect. Great. someone, Archana is asking, how are you defining influencers? So influencers are very much specific to the industry you're in, and influencers are defined as people that consistently get engagement from a specific target audience for the topics that they write about. So that's how you would define an influencer. Someone who writes consistently about specific topics and gets good engagement and reach for those content topics would be considered an influencer in that space. Typically, we look at influencers as at least people that have 10K in followers, but that's not the only variable we look at. We look at other things like what do they post about consistently and how much engagement do they get in the areas that they post about.
For
Hopefully that
this
answers.
analysis, Archana, what we did is we said you had to have a minimum number of posts over a time period, just so that there's enough volume to analyze. So it was the follower count and the volume of posts in, I think it was a year or 2 year period for the two different types of analysis that we did.
Cool. The second one is a personal favorite of mine. I don't know how many of you have heard all the time. Just post a picture of yourself, like having a coffee, not looking directly at the camera, and that always does well. And generally, is that true? What the data shows is that those personal posts with those selfie pictures may get a lot of impressions, but don't necessarily tie to the bottom results. Meaning the average engagement that those type of posts get is very similar actually to MoFu and BoFu posts. At least that's what the data shows. It has higher impressions. So just to be clear, it has a higher reach. So the impressions on those kind of posts are higher because people outside your network are more likely to read or dwell on a post with a picture or something like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it translates to bottom line results. So another reason to A, mix up your content, and B, when people say post a picture of yourself, they're not talking necessarily always about bottom line results. Anything else, Arjun? I'm going to move otherwise so that we
Nope,
can keep
I think
going.
that's it.
Okay. Okay. The third finding was everybody's, oh my God, this post did really well, but these posts are getting so few likes. It's okay. That is the name of the game. And in some ways, I think LinkedIn likes it like that because then people keep trying to improve their content and keep active on LinkedIn. But what you on this chart on the left, these are all, if you're in marketing, these are all very well-known names that consistently get a lot of reach and a lot of engagement, like Elena Werner, Dave Gerhardt, they get a ton of engagement and reach. And what the dots show you is that even they have bad posts. And the difference between their best and their worst posts is like 10 likes to 180 likes. So it's okay for not all of your posts to do as well. And it doesn't mean that LinkedIn is not working or that your content isn't resonating. Okay.
Yeah, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, it would be just post good information regularly and don't worry about what engagement it gets and what impressions it gets. It's a fool's errand. Like you don't know what other content you're competing with on the day that you post and what's going on in the world and news and blah, blah, blah. Just share good stuff. And if you keep doing that, you're going to win. But a lot of times you'll see some posts do well and you're like, I have no idea why that one did well. And yeah, the truth is there isn't a ton of formulaic reasons why some posts will do well. You'll see some things here in this finding that Anita is about to go over. But in all honesty, if you just get into the habit of sharing useful information with that right content mix, you're going to win in the long run.
Okay. This is another personal favorite of mine. Like, how many of us have heard, never put links in your posts? LinkedIn will kill your reach of your post. Or, no, hashtags are now old. Don't do hashtags. All these different things. Emojis, that's so AI. Don't ever do emojis. So we analyze like all these structure elements, what drives performance. And yes, there are a few things that seem to correlate across all the type of posts. So for example, list items. So when you list things either using bullets or arrows or numbered lists, those in general seem to do well. I think it just makes it more readable. There's more breathing space. It's easy to scan. So that may be why. Hashtags in general don't seem to be doing well. Don't have hashtags across any of these things. They don't seem to be doing well. Links are interesting. It's not a blanket, don't ever put links. Actually, what we found is if you have a BoFu post where you're trying to promote something, your webinar, your blog post, or something like that, it's absolutely okay to put a link in your body of your post. And just yesterday, I saw Sam McKenna. I don't know how many of you know her. She has 150,000 followers. She used to work at LinkedIn and now she runs something called Sam Sales, which is basically how to use LinkedIn for sales. And she was doing a webinar, and sure enough, her webinar registration link was in the body of the post. In addition to data, I have real life example of somebody who is from the LinkedIn world that says it's okay to put links if it's a BoFu post. Other ones, I think you can see hashtag mentions of names generally are not good. Don't tag people in your post, because especially if they don't respond to the post, it's like spamming. So that's why when you put that, it has a worse performance. So anyway, hope this is helpful. More line breaks are better. Links hurt, hashtags hurt. Emojis can help if it's a ToFu post, and at mentioning is a bad idea.
So the headline for all of this, if you're trying to understand why do some of these things work and why they don't, behind the scenes, what LinkedIn cares about is that when people see your post, they spend time on your post. They read it. The sort of the metric they call it's dwell time. Are people dwelling more time on it? So anything that improves dwell time on your post suggests to LinkedIn that, oh, there's something of substance here. That's why readability matters. Having these line breaks and spaces, you'd be like, why would that matter? It probably means that people are spending more time. They're more able to read all the way to the end. And if they do that, then your post is going to do better. So that's one of the big reasons why all of these factors matter.
Okay, Ashley has a question. Does embedding a link in the first comment actually help or hurt? And then I also see Alan has an answer. So do you want to answer that question, and then I'll unmute?
Wait, just give me a second, Anita. I finally got to the
Okay. Okay,
doc.
so let Arjun get to his desk, and then Alan, do you want to say what your question is, and then we'll answer both of them. Oh, you're on mute.
Exactly the same question as Ashley.
Okay, perfect. Excellent.
So,
All right.
yeah,
Okay,
kill two
excellent.
birds.
Yeah, I will see if Arjun, if you did any analysis on it. I don't want to speak without data,
Yeah,
but
so
sorry, go
we
ahead.
didn't analyze that. We didn't analyze that specifically. Wait,
Did we lose him? Yeah, we didn't analyze that specifically, but my intuition is that LinkedIn understands the LinkedIn like link in the comments, and I don't think it actually helps. If you need to put a link, just put it in the body of the post. And in general, as long as you're mixing up your content and every post of yours doesn't have a link, you should be fine. But I don't think you need to put it in the comment because LinkedIn has figured out that game. Okay, we'll wait for Arjun to join, and then Archana asks, do you have any insight on carousel versus text posts? So again, Archana, we didn't do a specific analysis on carousel. I don't think we had enough carousel posts to make a data-driven analysis. But I can tell you what do you know who Finn Thormier is? He's another he does a lot of LinkedIn stuff. And I think what he says is absolutely right, which is, I don't think it matters. I don't think there's any correlation between carousel versus text posts. I have had text posts do really well and text posts do really badly. I've had carousel posts do really well and carousel posts do really badly. So I think it's all about how timely is the content. Is it a trending content that you're putting together, insightful content that you're putting together? That matters, and more than the format necessarily. Okay.
yeah. The way that I think about it, guys, is choose the format that would make your conclusions more readable and more easy to digest. For example, when we did this findings, this research, the way that we shared it, we did a few posts where it was just one finding at a time because it's pretty data heavy. And at the end, we did a carousel which had all the different findings because that was easy for people, or at least we think that makes it easier for them. So if you think your format will make it easier for people to read and understand, go with that format rather than try to game it saying, oh, carousels work. I'm going to turn everything into a carousel. And then it's just not going to get the results that you want.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then Alan's
Okay.
asking pics, graphics, and post versus text only. Okay, this one we didn't do an analysis on, but I do have a very strong opinion of it, which is that pictures matter a ton. Really, if you think about your LinkedIn feed and you see all the posts, right, you get two rows of text and then an image. So 85% of that post is the image and then 15% is text. And you're trying to get people to stop and read more. So you see a lot of people spend time on those first two lines, the hook, as they'll say. And that's good, no problem. But the biggest chunk is the image. So you want to get the image right if it's an image-driven post. And there is a formula for it. I'll tell you real quick. It's not backed by data, but I think it's pretty good. And that's when you do a ToFu post, have photos of yourself or photos of whatever that scene is. That's really good. If it's MoFu, have data, charts, tables, graphs, anything like that. That works really well. And if it's BoFu, then little videos and animations, screenshots, customer success stories, quotes, all of those work really well. That's a general formula that, again, it matches to the type of content. So it's not like you're gaming it, but what I've seen is that really helps a lot.
Satish has a question about, does it apply to both individuals and company accounts?
Good question, Satish. We did not analyze company accounts. We did only individual accounts because largely speaking, LinkedIn seems to really like individual accounts these days over company accounts. And again, they're doing that because that's what their audience is telling them, which is, I'm not here to follow brands. I'm here to interact with people because people are just much more interesting. So I think you could probably apply a lot of these findings to company accounts, but I don't have the data to back that.
Okay, great. Let's move along. Next one, Arjun, now you can
Yeah, I
take
can
it.
drive from now. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay, so this one is probably one of the most controversial ones, right? The normal data that you hear from people is you've got to post more. Hey, it's not working on LinkedIn, you just got to post more. And what we found is that's probably not true. In fact, it might even be untrue, which is to say that this chart is saying the more you post, your average engagement per post might actually go down. It's not a huge, very tight correlation. So other mathy nerds on this chart are like, Arjun, come on, that's not a very high R squared. It's not, but what I would say is it's also not showing you that, oh, look, if you post more, then your average goes up. And what it really means is when you post when you have something useful to say, insofar as you're trying to drive the average up. So this is actually a very nuanced point. So I want to make sure you guys get this right. If you think that posting more often will drive your average up, the data says no. And it says it might actually get worse. And LinkedIn itself, a couple weeks ago, one of their VPs was saying LinkedIn has a higher fatigue level than other social networks in terms of seeing the same brand or the same people post over and over again. So their own people are saying that. So I think that's probably true. Now, this is all averages. This is not total engagement. So one of my friends, Peter Caputa, who Gene knows very well, is really good at the LinkedIn game. And what he says is, yes, average per post goes down, but as a total engagement, if you're just trying to get more engagement, post more, no problem. And that's probably true. I say probably because you don't know how you would have done had you not done that. But what I'm trying to get at is don't think that, oh, I just have to post more because that's how to game the algorithm. There's just no data to back that. Rather, try to post reasonably frequently, like once a week is fine, because that sort of keeps you top of mind to your audience. And that's just basic marketing. The more regularly that you're in their space with useful data, that's goodness. So that's what this chart says. And to me, it's an absolute breath of fresh air. It's telling everyone not to freak out and try to post over and over again because someone told you that's how you win in LinkedIn. Just post once a week or more or less if you don't have anything useful to say, but don't kill yourself over it. Does that make sense?
Alan has a question. Alan, go ahead.
So I'm a guest on a bunch of podcasts, and I break them up into shorts. I have so many shorts from those podcasts that I have at least one video short every day on my LinkedIn feed. And then I also have, on most days or at worst every other day, I've got something else. I have once a week, I've got my private equity CMO advisor newsletter, and then I have other posts that I do. I probably post something 4 to 5 times a week plus every day for the videos that are shorts. Or so is that too much? Or
that's why I
how do
was
I
trying to
know?
differentiate between the average and total engagement, Alan. If you have useful stuff to say, by all means, post. You want to post every day, it's fine. But what I'm saying is, if you don't have something useful to say or some unique content, don't feel forced to like, oh my God, I have to do 4 or 5 times a week. That isn't true. But if you have useful stuff to say, yeah, by all means, like post. That's not a bad thing.
Yep, exactly. Okay,
Okay.
I'll keep going. The
This
next
one
one. Mhm.
also is really interesting. This is another favorite of mine because I feel like a lot of people on LinkedIn think I've got to get more followers. Like they brag about the number of followers they get. I can't tell you, actually, I wish I should have charted this. A lot of people with huge follower accounts actually get terrible average impressions or average engagement. And if you look at this, there's actually two segments. The segment in blue is less than 50,000 followers. The segment in purple is more than 50,000 followers. I just broke it up to make the findings a little bit easier. If you notice in the less than 50,000 segment, which I think is probably all of us here on this webinar, there's no correlation between average engagement that you get per post and the follower count you have. And this is huge. Think about how many people are dying to get up to 10,000, 20,000 followers because they think my reach is going to go up. I'm almost there. Not true. Like the follower thing isn't true. And if you want to unravel why that is, there's so much to it. A lot of people bot followers or have followers that are so spread out that they don't consistently engage with the content you share or the background you have. Turns out the follower count, at least under 50K, doesn't matter. And even above 50K, it's loosely correlated. And the takeaway from this is don't worry about follower count. It's largely a vanity metric. Rather, build an audience that actually cares about the thing that you know really well. And whether that's 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, doesn't matter. But if you consistently talk about a set of topics that you're very good at, you'll get the right audience, they will engage with you, and that'll drive the bottom line results you want. It doesn't really matter whether that's 25K followers or 250K followers for the most part.
Phew,
Thank you,
God for
Precious.
that.
Yeah. And honestly, if you even think about, by the way, oh, this is another thing, Anita, if you go back to the slide, I'll tell you how this gets gamed and it drives me bananas. So if you think about your own behavior on LinkedIn, I don't know, when's the last time you guys even followed anyone like explicitly? I barely ever do it. So like once in a while. Yeah, Gene does it once in a while. Yeah, I can't. All right, see you, Ashley. And the way that you do get followers now is that every time you have a connection to someone, it's an automatic follow. And so a lot of people know this game, which is why you get spammed with connection requests all the time. Every day I must get like a half dozen connection requests from people I don't even know. I'm like, what is this? So I, of course, don't accept it, but a lot of people do because they're like, what's the worst? Like, there's no downside. Sure, I'll connect to you. So that drives people's follower counts up. But what it does is it produces a large follower count for that person that is completely rubbish audience and they don't engage back. That's why you end up with this chart. Because lots of people have huge follower accounts of random connections that they did to jack up their follower account, but they don't engage back with the content, so the average engagement per post goes down. That's what I'm saying is really going on behind the scenes. Don't fall into that trap. Again, keep calm, produce great content for a specific audience, and move on. Forget the follower count.
Amazing. Okay.
All
This
right.
one's a good one.
This one, yeah. So if you're a LinkedIn nerd, I hope you're not, because God, what a waste of your life. But if you're a LinkedIn nerd, like I am, then you'll hear about this thing called the 360 brew algorithm. It's LinkedIn's, I don't know if it's a code word or what have you, but for their new algorithm, they debuted it in Q4 of last year. So about 6 months ago, there was actually a research paper they published in January of 25, and it took a few months to implement it. The gist of it was LinkedIn is now going to care a lot more about matching content to each person and what we believe you will be most interested in. That's the headline. And they use LLMs to do this. Okay, very cool, conceptually really good. A lot of chatter on LinkedIn last year, late last year and early this year, like my reach is down, LinkedIn's throttling me, oh my God, sky is falling down. So we looked at the data. And what we saw is that the impact is not uniform across the list of people we studied. So it's not like LinkedIn said, we're going to turn down people's reach uniformly. Just not, you have to buy ads. That's not what LinkedIn's doing. What they're saying is you're going to get rewarded if you're pretty consistent thematically about the subject areas you talk about. And so for some influencers, like you see in the bottom half of this chart, Peter Caputa, Dave Gerhardt, Sarah McNamara, Justin Rowe, they actually went up after the change went through. So we compared January, February of 2025, which is before the algorithm change, to January and February of 2026, which is well after the algorithm change. And what we showed is that some influencers do have lower average engagement. Some actually have higher average engagement. So the red ones went down, the green ones went up. And that's to say that it is not a uniform bang on reach for everyone. Some people did better and some people did worse. Again, the upshot of it is just produce good content for a segment that you know well, on a topic you know well, and you'll probably continue to do better than even before.
Great.
Alan's asking, how do we know how we compare on this chart? Oh boy, Alan, you could do this analysis of your own. If you have enough data of your own, we could do it. I might actually just do it for you.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
could do it
so
too.
I think you publish enough, Alan. I probably could do this for you. So let's talk afterwards, and I'm actually curious to see what your own impact is. But yeah, the upshot of it, guys, is don't worry so much about the algorithm impact and all the things that you're hearing on Chatter. If you are thematically consistent, insightful for a specific audience, I think you're going to do just fine. In fact, maybe even better than before.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, almost at the end.
Yeah, so all that's to say, here are the things that I would like you. Actually, you could boil down this whole thing. I think I said once, keep calm and write great content. That honestly is like the headline. And to any marketer, that's basically what we always try to do is put out great content. So that's the truth. There are some nuances to it. The first is balance the content mix. Don't be boring. That's the worst. There's a kiss of death on social media. Don't be boring. So a lot of it's going to be industry stuff, 50%. 30% is personal, ToFu stuff. We're following people. We're not following brands. You are the marketing asset, not your company. All of you, I know many of you on this, are very interesting people as I've gotten to know you. Share some of that background. It makes you interesting, makes you cool. And then only 20% of the time, talk about your product or service that you're doing. That, and when you do that, by all means, like Anita said before, you can do outbound links and those kinds of posts, but otherwise keep it short. So get the content mix right. Don't try to optimize too much on posts. Don't try to make it look too promotional with hashtag things. Just make it easy to read. Be clear. If you are trying to drive people to do something, it's okay to put a link. If you're not trying to drive people to something, then don't just ad nauseum put links. Don't at mention people. Don't try to tag them to show off. Oh, look at me. I know. Don't do those things. Just write the content the way you think it's going to be helpful. And if there's a link that's relevant, by all means include it.
Great. Okay.
The
And I
the
think
length thing matters. Sorry, the length thing matters just a little bit because again, some people try to like keep their posts really short in the idea that that's how they'll get to the finish line. Write again, as any good writer knows, be concise, but if you need it to explain a concept or a topic, yeah, write a little bit extra. That's okay. And then the last thing is quality over quantity. Don't feel like you have to post 3 to 5 times a week. It'll kill you. If you do have good stuff, sure, by all means. But if you don't worry about it, post once, twice a week is enough. And that's just a basic marketing thing. You're trying to stay top of mind for people, but otherwise don't force it.
perfect.
Okay,
And then there's one last one, Arjun.
couple more
Oh, we have
things.
two more
Oh,
slides. I think
yeah,
this some people may
yeah.
know, but some people may not know. So just
That's
quickly.
right. Yeah, the obligatory, who the heck are you guys? So I think a lot of you, Rocksalt is a software that makes it easy for non-marketers to do well on LinkedIn and actually Reddit as well. So the whole idea is these days, who do people want to hear from? They want to hear from experts. They want to hear from people who've been in the trenches, who've had this problem in the industry, and that's the most credible person you're going to have. It's the most credible asset you have in marketing. But those people are non-marketers. They don't know social or they're really busy with other stuff. They don't have a lot of time. It's hard for them to be consistent. So we built Rocksalt for these type of people. Hey, 10 minutes a day, you'll do the things you need to. You do the two halves. The first is you're in the right conversations because that's a big part of social. People think social is just post, post, post. No, half of social is you got to be in the right conversations. You've got to be in the community. So the first half of Rocksalt is be where the action is. And then the second half is author the right kind of content easily. We make that super easy using SMS, WhatsApp, and a digital avatar of yourself so that you can capture ideas when inspiration strikes rather than when you sit down in front of a computer. So anyways, I won't belabor the point, but if any of this sounds interesting to you guys, please do reach out to us, let us know. And a lot of the science that you just saw in the last 8 slides is baked into the software. So you don't have to worry about things like content mix and should I have a link and what should I write about next and all this other junk. We will take care of all that stuff. We will automatically analyze and tell you, this is what you should do. This is what you should say, blah, blah, blah. And then you can just click the buttons and go. Okay. All right.
One
I
last
promised
one.
you guys that I would get to your big questions. Here are the 3 big buckets. I tried to line it up based on what everyone said. So the first bucket is this isn't working anymore. And there's variations of this. Like I keep seeing my reach is going down, or the same 12 people keep seeing my post. It's my friends and family. I don't know, the post doesn't do as well as it used to, blah, blah, blah. The main suggestion I would have on this is that you are probably not leveraging commenting enough. Remember I said there's two halves to social, there's posting and commenting. Most people drop the ball on commenting. And if you don't do the commenting and if you're not in the right conversations, you will not grow your reach. Just posting alone doesn't work. And this part, the be in the right conversations and leave the right comments, it's a little bit of work if your main feed is not well tuned. Again, one of the reasons why we built Rocksalt, but you don't have to use us. If you make a concerted effort, you can pull this off. And some people are exceptionally good at this. I mentioned this gentleman named Pete Caputa, who's a very good friend of mine, and he is so good at this. Oh my goodness. He must spend, I think he spends like 3 hours a day on LinkedIn, which is ridiculous. But my point is he knows the importance of commenting. You've got to comment in the right posts. And those are basically the posts that influential voices in your industry are authoring. So if there are people that are influential in the industry, make a list of them, be in their comments, be useful. Doesn't matter if that author himself sees you or not. It's that your ICP is reading the comments. Think about yourself. When you see posts, you often do skim the comments. I certainly do. And even LinkedIn by default often shows 1 or 2 comments. It's not even hard to become the top comment. It's like 3 to 5 likes will make you the top comment on most posts. So get into the habit of commenting to grow your reach, and then you will have less of this complaint that LinkedIn's not working for me. Okay, second one, I don't know what to post. Definitely a big one. It's around ideation and things like that. I would say the big takeaway there is to vary that content mix. Once you mentally realize, oh, it's ToFu a third of the time and MoFu 50% of the time and BoFu 20% of the time, it will make it easier for you to start to think about, oh, I need to do this kind of post next. I need to do that kind of post next. Anita, the deck disappeared.
I know, I just saw that. Sorry about that.
Try to focus
The
on
trees
that.
are pretty.
Yeah. What
Try to
happened?
focus on that content mix. That will make your life a lot easier. And then you'll start to see, oh yeah, okay, I'm due for this. Again, something that Rocksalt will make easy, but you don't have to use us. Just even if you visually look at your post and you're like, huh, I haven't done a ToFu post in a while, or I haven't done a MoFu post in a while.
Just give me a
That
second.
basic thing will help. And by the way, if you're in the habit of commenting regularly on these influencers, you will have a good sense of what your ICP cares about, what they're reading and what they're engaging with. And that's going to give you a bunch of ideas for content as well. So all of it works together in unison. Okay. And then the last one is likes don't matter. This is perhaps the most important one, honestly, of the 3, right? I don't know. I feel like I'm not getting as much engagement, or I get like a few, but I can't convert them into clients, all these other things. And the big aha for all of us, especially for me when I figured it out, is if you look at any of your posts, guys, go take a look at any of your posts, you'll see that for every like or comment you have, there's probably about 100-ish impressions, give or take, 50 to 100 impressions. That means 99% of the people who read your post don't leave a mark. They won't like it and they won't comment on it. It'll drive you bananas, but you have to understand and accept that's the nature of marketing. A lot of it is going to be dark. And that's okay. If they're consistently reading your stuff, you're top of mind for them. And eventually they're going to be like, huh, who is this Anand guy? Or who is this Marquise guy? I keep seeing him. What's the deal with this? And they'll go and they'll look you up. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Anand, okay, he works at this company. What's that company? And maybe they'll ask LLM some question or something. But eventually they're going to Google your company name. And they're going to say, okay, and they arrive at your website. And now, because they know you and they've done a little bit of research, they're coming, they're a lot more informed, their intent is higher, they're more likely to convert. And what you should do is on every form on your website, ask, how did you hear about us? It's a simple thing. It's shockingly good. It will tell you, people will say, oh yeah, LinkedIn. And you won't know which LinkedIn post always, but at least you're going to start seeing the data. And then when you hop on a call with them, get into the habit of asking, by the way, I'm curious, how did you hear about us? And if you do call recording software like most of us do these days, eventually you have a huge trove of data. Analyze that and see. And again, you'll see that LinkedIn's coming up. That's how you start to connect the dots for all that work. Yes, I didn't get a ton of likes, but you know what? Magically, it's turning into leads and customers because people are reading and just not leaving a mark. So get comfortable tracking the dark funnel. By the way, one step above even how did you hear about us, which a lot of you know if you're experienced marketers, is go to Google Search Console and look for branded search traffic. The best asset you can have in the world today is people searching for your company name. Nobody can take that away from you. You don't have to buy that for the most part. It's great. So if you see that people are searching more and more for your brand, that's the best thing you could do. So look at that. It's a little up funnel and then a little down funnel is how did you hear about us? If you do those two, you're tracking the dark funnel, and that's going to be great. In fact, the only reason I care about engagement on my posts is I just want to know that directionally the right kinds of people are engaging with it. That's really it. But beyond that, I don't care that much about the direct engagement. Alan, most don't fill out forms and stay anonymous. That's most don't fill out form on your website. Yeah, if they're coming via branded search traffic, right, then a lot of it is they're coming with intent. And so if you have a conversion point on your website that's good for that intent, then yeah, they're going to fill out that form. Ask them. But totally agreed. Of course, the vast majority of people who come to your website are not going to fill out a form. I'm not going to go into the weeds of like how you track who that is and all that. But what I'm saying is if people are following you on LinkedIn regularly, when they eventually come to your website, they definitely have intent and they will show that in the form.
And Alan, just to add to that, like you want to have the how did you hear about us in the really bottom of the funnel conversion forms. You have set up a demo or sign up for a trial. You don't necessarily want to have it on forms around like content, for example. You want to leave that ungated. So it's not to put it on everything, it's just to put it on the ones
Yeah,
which,
I don't gate anything.
yeah, yeah. So that's what we mean by ask that
Yeah.
question.
But there, and you mentioned this a little bit, Arjun, but there are things like our B2B or sales intel or others where, it can give you a sense of the companies and or people that are coming to your website, which is useful
Yeah,
too.
I did a little bit of experimentation with RB2B. By the way, this is a little nerdy marketing
I've
stuff.
got that, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if you found it only identified 8% of my traffic, which is better than nothing, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, Clipit identified a higher percent. And between our B2B and sales intel, it gets some, but
Yeah,
it gets companies and it gets some people too. So yeah, it won't get it.
yeah.
None of them will get everyone,
It's
but
funny.
it's nice to
Yesterday,
get some.
agreed. Anita and I were talking about to this marketing influencer yesterday. Her name is Ashley Faust. She's very cool. And one of the big things that we were talking about is how it's harder and harder to track people online. A lot of these platforms remove all the tracking codes, the identification, there's cookie, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. And so at some level, I feel like we have to be a little comfortable with going back to old school marketing. Do you guys know this John Wanamaker quote from, I think it's like the 40s or 50s? He's this
Yeah, we don't
famous,
know, which half,
yeah,
but
I know that
yeah,
half my
something like
marketing is working. I just don't know which half. And so
that.
it's a classic quote. This guy, by the way, John Wanamaker, is a pretty interesting guy. If you ever want to look up his Wikipedia, he's cool. I think he like had a huge department store in Philly where I used to live. It was called
Yeah,
Wanamaker. But
yeah, I
in any
remember it.
case, yeah. And the thing about it is, at some level, you will never be able to fit all the dots in marketing. I wish we could, but you probably are not going to. Your customer will see and hear all kinds of things and touch points, and people will talk. And oh, I saw this post, and I heard you on this podcast. And then I was thinking about who knows? Just consistently put out great content, be really helpful, really
Yeah.
solve for the customer. You will build great trust. They will love you. You'll be top of mind. And when they are in market, because God knows we can't move them to market, but they will eventually be in market, they will remember you and they will come for you. That's it.
If you look at the newest Sixth Sense research that Kerry Cunningham did, the buyer's journey and about the only 5% of the people are actually in a buying mode at any given time, but they're developing short lists. And if you're on that short list of 4 to 5 people because you've invested in brand, if you're not even going to be considered. But if you
That's
are,
right.
you've got to, when they are in market, 95% of the time they will do business with someone on that list.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely. In fact, it's why I think sometimes this huge emphasis on AEO or AI optimization is slightly misguided, right? We will go and ask the LLMs when we are closer to being in market. But you're not even going to be on that short list. And to try to get into those AI answers is so bloody hard and arguably not very scientific. So instead, just be where your customers are. If they're hanging out on LinkedIn or Reddit or Discord or Twitter, whatever, be there, be useful, be helpful, be top of mind. They will search for you by name at some point, and that's the very best. That's why I said branded search traffic is the very best thing. Search for my name, I won't lose. But trying to win it just through AI optimization, I think, is quite difficult. Okay, I have a question here. Do posting always on the same day? Let's say you post one, do post every Monday is the best practice, does not matter. Great question. I did not explicitly analyze time of day or day of week to post, Matt. So I can't tell you definitively. What I will tell you is a little anecdotal, which is that I largely think it's a really sort of simple formula. You want people to engage with your content when you put it out. Just think about where your network is largely and post when you think that network is awake and likely to be on LinkedIn. So, for example, Anita's network is a little bit more Europe. Mine is a little bit more East Coast United States. I won't post at midnight Pacific time. That's a bad idea for me. And for her, she won't post late in the day because she'll lose most of Europe because that's where her network is. So it's mostly that. I don't think day of the week matters so much. There's all kinds of things that,
I usually post like again, this is not based on the data that we just analyzed, but I typically don't post on Mondays. I'll post between Tuesday and Friday because Monday people are getting back to work. They have a lot of mails in their inbox and planning. So I don't think
Mhm.
that's so I do Tuesday to Friday or I do Sunday because a lot of people, especially the audience we're going for, which is C-level subject matter experts, like to like get ahead and do a little bit of planning. So probably check their mails on Sunday at some point. So Tuesday to Friday or Sunday is my rule of thumb, but and I've heard that work for a lot of other people, but again, it's anecdotal evidence.
Yeah. By and large, there are two other things that I would say. The first is the nature of social media is you want to be timely. So let's say you write something great on a Monday and you're like, oh man, I think I'm going to wait till Saturday because that's when, it's quiet. But it might be a little dated by then. So most of the time, I'm like, just get it out there. That's the best thing. Get it out there. Don't worry so much. Worry a little bit about time of day because you don't want people to be asleep in your network when you post. And the weekends are a little less competitive, but then there's also less of an audience. So beyond those general rules of thumb, I don't have anything really definitive to say there.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions, folks? We've still got 7 minutes. Fire away all your darkest worries about LinkedIn.
I
I'm
will
here
be
to help.
sending out the slides and the webinar recording, etc., to people that registered and couldn't make it, and also obviously to all of you guys. And if there's any question Arjun and I didn't answer, then feel free to email us and let us know. And if there's any other analysis that you think would be really useful, we have a lot of data. We're always looking to use our data to try and either confirm or bust any myths around LinkedIn or Reddit. Feel free to let us know what you would like to know, and we'll try to answer it with data in our
Yeah.
next.
I think one of the nicest things, one of the best things about all of this effort, guys, is that it actually works. As painful as LinkedIn might seem, as pretentious as LinkedIn might seem at times, God knows I hate the performative nature of LinkedIn sometimes. The thing actually works. And I know because we ask all of our customers, hey, how'd you hear about us? And every time, even just yesterday, actually, I had two calls on Monday, and both of them found us on LinkedIn. One because I left a comment on someone else's post, and a second because they saw some post of mine before. And I was like, really? I had no idea. And they're like, yeah, I thought it was cool. I looked you up and I thought it was interesting. I checked you out and I signed up to get a demo. Like the thing actually works. I don't know how high volume it is. I'm not saying we're rolling in customers and millions of dollars yet, but it works. Put out great content, be consistent with these formulas. The thing actually works. Yeah. Oh, Nikki. Nikki just said she found us through TikTok. This is hilarious, guys. By the way, Nikki found us through TikTok because in the how did you hear about us? There's a field, it says LinkedIn and Reddit and whatever, and then it's other. And so she and four people in a span of a week filled out other and they put TikTok. And I was like, what? I've never even been on TikTok. Where are you finding us? So then I think I asked Nikki, and then Nikki said, oh, I heard about you from so and so. And I looked it up, and some rando influencer on TikTok had picked up a post that I wrote on LinkedIn and turned into her post. And then she shared it. And I was like, holy crap. So social works. And if you don't ask, you won't know where it's working, but it really actually does work. It's crazy. Okay, perfect. Yes, fabulous, Archana. Okay, I think I've heard questions from most people, but I'm gonna just name call Anoop, Tim, Christine, Shafali. Did you guys have any questions that I didn't answer, or if you were too shy to ask, that's fine too. But you guys all made it out here, which I'm very grateful for. I want to make sure you got the answers for the questions you might have had in mind. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Anoop. Yeah, please fire away questions. If you have questions afterwards as well, you can find us. Anita will send you guys the recording and our emails. Just email me, whatever. You can find me on LinkedIn really easily as well, and I'll answer there too. And if you guys are seeing things that are working on LinkedIn that I didn't mention, like by all means, share it with me, share it with this group. All of us are learning from each other. It really helps to see what other people are saying is working for them.
Hey,
The tick- Yes, go ahead, Anand.
Arjun, so for the posts with a link, there's a blog or whatever that's posted, it has a link that I would like to post. And if I just post the link, very small image shows up at the because it
Mhm.
kind of whatever is the and then the text, but the image is not visible
Yes.
versus like taking the image, kind of full size image, and posting the link in the text. Which one is preferred, or is there any preference between one or the other? I feel that like the one with the link is easier. One click you get there. Other one that you have to kind of look for the link specifically.
Yeah. So the latter does better, Anand, which is where you spell it out a bit more rather than just put a link. It is more effort on your part, but I'll explain why that works. Ultimately, LinkedIn, like I said, cares most about dwell time. When people see this post, do they spend more time on it? Because more time on LinkedIn is good for LinkedIn Incorporated, right? You're spending more time there. They'll show you more ads, whatever thing they want. So when you do a post that's just, here's something interesting I saw, link, and yes, it's easy to click, the dwell time on that post is very low. And so that post may not do very well on reach. So look, if you're really pressed for time and you think it's an important article, sure, share it. But if you have a couple extra minutes, I would say call out the parts of that post that you thought were really important. That's adding your voice, your expertise. Have an image if you can, ideally from that article, a chart, a graph, whatever, just copy, paste, and paste it in, like no big deal. And then have a link either in the post or in the first comment. That's the formula I've seen work better because, again, it makes people spend a bit more time in that post, and that's what LinkedIn wants to see.
Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Marquise, yes, absolutely. Please share this deck. And if they have questions, they can always find me. Christine, boredom with my own content is really just showing up. Yeah. The funny thing about it, Christine, is I swear, for all the customers at Rocksalt, the number one function I think I play is when we get on calls, I have to remind people how interesting they are. I swear, I don't think I'm telling them anything else. I don't think I'm telling them any like software stuff. All of you guys are so interesting when we dig into your backgrounds. I'm like, you should write about that. You should share that. That's cool. And you have to believe, like you, once you get into it, you're like, yeah, I do have good stuff to say. And when you do that, then LinkedIn's fun for you. Look, if LinkedIn at the end of the day is not fun for you, you won't stick with this. It doesn't matter what I say. I can tell you all about business impact, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, you all will just fall off and be like, I hate this thing. I'm not doing it anymore. So it has to be fun for you at some level. And it's fun for you if you feel like you're sharing good stuff, good information about yourself, about your knowledge, etc. That's the only way you'll stick with it. And truthfully, that's it. That's the whole damn game in social and in marketing is can you be consistent and regular over a long period of time? So if it's not fun, you're not going to be.
Yeah, I have a lot to say on that point because Arjun likes to write, so he's doesn't have problem with creating posts. I am not that, and it took a certain mind frame shift for me to feel comfortable writing on LinkedIn. And one of these days, maybe I'll share how to build confidence to do LinkedIn. But one of them, for example, is I think of a very specific person in my ICP that I'm trying to help with my content and I make it about them versus about me. And that has helped to get over this roadblock of wanting to write on LinkedIn. So, anyway, we can talk more about it in another webinar, maybe.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys. I know we're at the top of the hour. I don't want to intrude on your time any further, but hopefully this is really interesting and useful for you. Again, we'll have lots of follow-ups and email, text me, whatever, anytime with feedback. I hope you all do better on LinkedIn, both for yourselves and for your companies. Yeah, get out there, have some fun, share your background, share your information. It's goodness. Like really, that's the promise of the internet, the original internet, was it's supposed to be fun and interesting and useful. So that's it. Just go out there and do exactly that, and all of us are going to be better off because you're going to do that.
And
Thank
if
you,
you
guys.
guys, then one last thing, if you guys liked any of this content and want to share your thoughts, and if you don't mind me using the quote from the webinar, then I can post about it, or if you want, you can post about it, but would appreciate doing that as well. That would be great. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Good seeing you.
Bye.